Ladies and gentlemen, how's everybody doing? We're back for yet another Hoss Chat. I didn't die this past week. I found my way back. It's a new week, new mentality. You're showing up with a positive idea and a will to go. This week we got the tremendous Caleb Khuu on the Hoss Chat today. Caleb, how's it going, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Nick.
Of course, man. Of course. We're just getting off of rehearsal here, so I thought, what a better chance to sit down and have a little bit of a Hoss Chat. And I get Caleb on here. I just did your show last week, I think that was.
Yeah, it just aired this Monday.
Yeah. And you're hoping to film a few more, obviously, and kind of have it as a series?
Totally, yeah. I've got a bunch of great artists that I'm kind of talking to. Well, the whole idea is artists and musicians who aren't necessarily just like, the regular, here's this band, right? Maybe the guy who plays guitar for that band, right?
Right. Well, I mean, especially around here, it's like if you're in the scene, you know everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why you can't make people mad, because then everybody knows. Yeah, I've met Caleb probably about a year and some change ago now. You were playing on the street downtown Waterloo.
Uptown Waterloo.
Yeah, and you gave me your card, and then I needed a guitarist a week later, and it worked together. It worked well. I don't want it to be like too interviewy, but like give people like a little backstory on how long you've been playing. Who is Caleb Khuu? What does Caleb Khuu do?
Yeah, so I'm Caleb Khuu. I was born in British Columbia, actually, and I moved around a lot in my childhood, and I kind of messed around with, musical instruments here and there, played some piano, some violin, played French horn in high school, actually, French horn and trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
Did that work for, like, women?
Not necessarily, no. Well, specific kinds of women.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay.
No, but I started playing guitar, I think, about 8 years ago now, and once I kind of started right into jazz, which helped me get a really solid foundation, so I didn't really spend too much time just kind of messing around in garage band stuff. I kind of went straight into the hardcore theory and whatever.
Nice.
So I feel like that gave me a really strong foundation. And then when the pandemic hit, I was told by my parents to go find a job. And there were no jobs. So I'm like, hey, I can kind of do this guitar thing. And now we're here.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the stuff that I've done with you and seeing the work that you've done, like it's just an uphill climb for you. It seems to be going well, and it's continuing that way.
Yeah, it's been a good couple of years.
Definitely. I mean, I even hate to bring up COVID because COVID's been beat to death. I hate the post-COVID, this is how we are. No, I'm done with that. But I mean, to touch on it slightly, to contradict myself, it's come back in full force. It almost feels like there's more opportunity now than there was prior to it.
Well, for me, I was primarily playing jazz in Toronto before COVID, and then once COVID hit, those gigs weren't really around anymore, so then I ended up just playing locally, and I'll be honest, because I was in high school during COVID, so I was lucky in which it didn't affect me that much. And I just kind of came out much better. I came out as a kind of a full-fledged adult out of COVID and hit the ground running. So
yeah, I think like especially with COVID too, it's certain people, and I don't blame them. I mean, I'm sure we all have impacts from that, but it's like socially now even, sometimes you can see the little effects of it a little bit.
Oh, totally,
of what isolation has done to people. And I mean, some people I think kind of went a little nutty throughout that, and they never really came back.
Yeah, like certain interactions with some people, you're like, oh, this is a little weird.
I remember right the week COVID had started, because I was on radio at Conestoga at the time. Everybody, we were talking about it on the air, and that was kind of like a joke, I hate to say at the time. It was like, COVID's coming. Don't be partying this weekend. But I remember everybody I knew broke up that week. Oh, wow. Everybody broke. Jesus. They were just not into it. I was even in the mix, too. Hey, I might as well jump on the train.
Oh, man.
I remember a lot of people were sad because of COVID, that they were sad also because they got dumped.
That's really funny. That's like in those nature events when it's like all the birds leave and it's like an ominous warning sign.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't know. It was such a weird thing. I think it was just an excuse to be away from people, and then some people realized, I don't mind being away from the other person.
Yeah. No, I'm lucky. Because I moved around a bunch. I never really formed that many close relationships, so it literally had no effect on me. I'm just like, this is great. I don't have to do as much homework.
Caleb, are you running from love?
Maybe.
I think one of the...
I've been accused of worse.
Yeah. I think one of the best stories you told me was a Burger King girl. How this girl would only want to see you when you had bought her food.
Yep.
I mean, I can't blame her. Like, I would do the same thing to somebody else, but I don't want to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah. Well, no one had jobs. I was the only guy who was making money, so, that Burger King sandwich is looking really good.
It was a whopper of a relationship. It really was. Interesting. Yeah, it's just such a weird thing coming out of it because especially like both of us have younger siblings. Your younger brother, my younger sister. And I think just I don't know. Almost in a weird way, I think that age group is more appreciative of spending time with other people.
Oh, totally, yeah.
I mean, that's like your formative years too.
Yeah, it's important for your development to really be around people because that's where you learn who you are, right?
It's true. It's very true. And I mean, for prolonged periods of time being without that, I think that is very detrimental.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, well, being a musician too, like how often are you interacting with people? I'd say that's like 80% of the job description.
Totally. Yeah.
Regardless if that's like part of the artistry of you working with people or performing for people or whatever, networking.
Well, it's a service industry, right? That's always the funny thing you think about. No matter what facet of the music industry you're in, you're ultimately making... Well, I mean, everything, if you really trace it back, is a service industry. Because we're trying to create things that better humankind. Generally, hopefully.
We hope so, yeah. Right? That's where you are.
That's the basis of, I think, most industries. If you look at what we're trying to do here, and music especially so, we're trying to create a product that people enjoy and want to come back and listen to more of. Right? And so there's no point in creating the product if no one's going to listen to it. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it fall, did it even fall, right? Like,
it's a good way to look at it. Caleb, we've reached the part of the Hoss Chat where I'm going to ask you a question that I'm going to start asking every new guest.
Okay.
So brace yourself for this. What's the worst thing you've ever done?
Oh, boy.
That you could tell on here without...
How long do you have?
Yeah. That you could tell on here without legal repercussion.
Okay. Well, then I'll switch this into the craziest thing I've ever done.
Okay.
So I remember first year of university, I got booked for this gig in Montreal, and this artist. So the artist I was playing with was opening for an artist who'd worked with Travis Barker, like a pop punk guy from LA, like pretty big, Kenny Hoopla, and it was like a pretty big show. It was a pretty big deal. They were on a big like international tour, and so we just luckily got booked because we sent them a DM and they were looking for local openers, and the artist I was playing for was like, oh, I guess Montreal is local. So I'm like, yeah, this is going to be badass. We're going to go to Montreal and play music. And then I remember my exam schedule got released, and I'm like, oh, I have an exam at 8:30 a.m. the next day in Waterloo.
Perfect.
And so I'm like, okay, there's two options here, right? I could say, oh, no, I can't do the gig. I'm just going to go write my exam. Or I could say, no, you don't know me, man. I'm going to play this gig, and I'm going to drive like 6.5 hours straight right back to Waterloo and write that exam.
Jeez, man.
And you know what option I did.
I do. You are known for doing the impossible. Wow. Yeah, that's like, I don't know. That's a whole like a new level of dedication.
So that was the worst thing I've done for my telomeres.
Okay. I mean, if that's the worst thing you've done, you're probably doing okay. As I was sitting here listening, I was thinking of a couple for myself, but that'll be a later date.
You gotta flip it around to the inverse interview.
Of course. So you were talking about before, I think that's something like people uniquely don't know about you, is that you are kind of like this worldly person. You've lived in so many different places, moved around with your family. How do you think that's kind of translated into kind of like the person you are at the moment?
I think the big thing is it means that I just don't have to rely on other people as much as I see most people do, right? It's just kind of like I'm perfectly fine with just getting in a car and just driving and just doing something and then just coming home and doing another thing. And like I don't, of course I get tired and everything, but I feel I have a better stamina for just kind of pushing myself to the limit than most people do.
Right.
Because it's just kind of how it's always been. I've always just been kind of moving around and just doing whatever I need to do, just kind of getting the job done.
Which I think is something that's it's missing from, I think, people kind of in our age range.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, everyone's very, I hesitate to use the words privilege, but it's just, there's this expectation that, life is supposed to be easy for me. Yeah. This is supposed to be easy for me just because I want it to be.
What is it? Hard times, or weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
Hard times create weak men.
It's true.
It's the same thing.
It's true. And I mean, obviously the world is ever changing. I don't even know where we're going to be in by the time this episode comes out, but it's, I do see a lot of people kind of misplacing blame.
Yeah.
Especially like career-wise, the age we're at, like early 20s here, it's like you're trying to establish yourself in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to turn around and go, well, this system exists, I can't do this, or this policy exists, or this isn't the way something is, so I can't pursue whatever career, socially, whatever it might be. And it's like, I mean, with some things, I'm sure limitations are a good thing, but for the most part, it just seems kind of like a cop-out.
And I think a lot of people forget how hard life really is.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Like, if you think about all of recorded human history, think about how great it's been in the last however many years. Of course, there's terrible things going on, but if you compare it on a massive global scale, we've got it pretty good, right? And I think a lot of people forget how tough it used to be, right? And, you know, all these things that we say are, you know, really hard to do today are, of course, hard. But you got to imagine people doing it without technology, with all these things. And, you know, there's a lot of issues today, but there were also a lot of issues that have been around for a long time. And I think people have a very short memory of that.
That's very true. I mean, I even think back like 2 generations to my great-grandfather. He was a pig farmer in St. Clements. And his existence was providing for his family, making sure they had enough food, they had enough income coming in, so that everybody could enjoy their lives. And I think that's something, obviously, that's still, people still work, people still need to make an income, but I think the certain external factors are quite a bit different than what they were even 50 years ago.
Yeah, I think people don't feel that dire need to provide like they used to, right? And it's like whenever I go play a gig and I play guitar, you can see it usually in the videos and stuff. Like I'm here to do a thing and I'm building something. I'm here for a reason. I'm not just a dude playing scales. I'm here to do something, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure you've been in this position too. I have been, where it's, hey, can you come do this for free? You mind doing this show? You mind doing this? It's, you know, I'm your friend or this or that. It's like, okay, that's nice and that's up to you to decide to do, but also don't guilt me for doing, providing free work for you just because you want me to.
Yeah, people don't value music. Like, because I always say that music is an abstract thing in the way that it's valued, right? Like, how do you really value what music is worth? You can look at, you know, quantitative metrics based on listenership and popularity and stuff. But really, music is only worth what people are willing to pay for it.
That's very true.
So it's a tough thing to say, right? It's a tough thing to really determine a worth towards your art.
Oh my God, is that ever true? Like, I think being a musician and, you know, kind of pursuing this thing throughout the years, it's kind of made me aware of how, because, you know, especially as a kid, you are only exposed really to what other people are consuming, especially in terms of like media, music, especially. So you're only hearing like the pop hits or like top 40 of today for the most part. And then I think as you kind of age in that high school year, you're exposed to so much more that you can kind of develop your own taste.
Totally, yeah.
But I think that's something that I've always been cognizant of, especially as a kid. It's, check out this song. Everybody loves it. Mm-hmm. Oh, then maybe it's not good.
Yeah.
Or it's just, they hit the formula of whatever, so it's, you know, erupted to what it's become. But it's also, it's like, your buddy shows you an album of songs probably 10 times the caliber of this popular thing, and it's just a game of really the popularity at that point in money. Yeah. It really changes your viewpoint on, like you were saying, like the actual value of the music itself.
Totally, right?
It's not just what the best song is.
It's very hard to determine definitive metrics in music, right? Outside of, you know, quantitative statistics about, you know, sales and streams and stuff. Outside of that, it's extremely difficult to say, you know, this chord progression is inherently better than the other one. Like, we could study it from a psychology perspective, and you could say, well, this resolution is more satisfying, and therefore it would be a better resolution to put here. But, you know, that's how you get functional harmony, and functional harmony was broken in the early 1900s, and to great acclaim. And that's how you get all this music that pushes beyond just, you know, 1, 6, 5, 4, right? You're not just Bach chorales and shit all the time, right?
It's true.
So it's really hard to determine what good music is, right?
It's very true, and I mean, I guess with music too, there's that whole idea of perception.
Yeah.
Of, you know, maybe a certain narrative is going to resonate with a different group of people separately than it might somebody else. But it's just such a weird time to be involved with music, especially. Mm-hmm. Anything creative. It's so divisive. It's so, in weird ways, the doors are wide open, but they're closed at the same time. Yeah. It's such a weird way. I mean, like the internet has surpassed, I think, a lot of people's expectations on you know, how to formulate a career.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think that freedom can kind of also be detrimental to you. Because how many musician friends do we have that something happens in the world and they post like the worst political take on it?
Yep.
And they're like, if you don't like this, unfollow me. Okay, I will. Bye.
Yeah. No, it's fun because, well, yeah, like I remember when my dad was coming up in university, he's like, oh, this computer thing, or this internet thing, it's just a fad.
Yeah.
I just remember hearing those stories from people. And I play in a lot of bands with older guys, and they tell me all those stories. I remember I was in rehearsal the other day, and they're like, hey, you guys remember the moon landing? I'm like 1969, the moon landing? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about? How old are you?
I remember I had a professor in college. He was teaching us our like music business course.
Yeah.
Amazing professor, but that, again, with that perception, he was coming from like the class of like the 70s and 80s. And he told us that social media is unimportant and that it would probably be fizzled out by like 5 years from that point. And I just remember being like, that's not
I don't know,
true.
buddy. Don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's like a very, miscalculated judgment on this. I think if anything, it's exploding.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You can't even keep track of all these social media avenues.
No.
Instagram's got threads all of a sudden. What the hell is that?
I still remember when they added stories.
Oh, yeah.
When they added stories, I was like, oh, they're stealing from Snapchat. And I never got into Snapchat, but it's just like, man, I still remember when Instagram was the little, like, camera thing instead of the rainbow color one.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in, like, 2015 or something.
Snapchat is one that makes me so mad.
I never got into it. I never had enough people I knew who were into it, so I just steered clear.
You're lucky, man. I remember at, like, I want to say in, like, grade 9 to 12, it was, like, exclusively how people wanted to communicate with each other. And I was like, I don't know what you're doing in your private time that you need to send photos that don't last. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't need to know. But
shoot me a text.
Yeah, how's it going? Text me, call me. Don't send me a picture of your face with a
fucking bar.
Yeah, with the little dog snout on it. Yeah, I don't like that. But it's such a weird thing with keeping up with it too. Yeah. I feel like I'm out of the loop.
Oh, me too.
I have Instagram, I have Facebook, and I have a Snapchat account for some group chats. But I really don't. I try not to just. Hey, look at me! I'm hanging out without my shirt on Snapchat.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this a lot, but I really wish I could delete Instagram. But the amount of work that I've gotten now of just using Instagram as my resume, because that is probably the primary messaging system that musicians use.
Oh, yeah. I would argue that more people probably check out your Instagram presence as opposed to your website most times.
Yeah,
they don't
pay
make
all
that
this
extra
money, spend all these hours designing it with the pictures. They get all the photo shoots done. They're like, "Hey man, cool Instagram." I'm like, "Dude,
yeah, nice selfie.
Come on, man.
yeah, come play this gig." Yeah, it's a great networking tool. I mean, like, a few people that we've even played with throughout the band. I mean, our band's always malleable and new people are coming and going, but through Instagram, they saw something, they saw a clip, they were like, I like the sound, I like contributing to that, let's do something.
Absolutely.
And I mean, as of now, most of them have worked out positively, but I've heard, the flip side of too. I mean, I'm sure you get those too. Hey, my brother plays guitar in the basement all the time. You should hire him.
Yeah, okay. It's like I don't want to put people down or anything, but it's one of those things where once you start doing anything for a living, you don't really want to just hang out with people who just kind of do it recreationally.
Right. And I mean, that's not even like, I think some people would view that as like an egotistical thing, but it's not. It's really not.
No. It's like, do you want to play chess against like a really good chess player when you barely know how to play chess? Like, it's just going to be a miserable experience for everybody.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it's so, I don't know. It's one of those things too where it's like, open mics are such a rich thing for the community, especially because it kind of cultivates like music. It gives people a platform to try out, new songs, new material, whatever it might be. But at the same time, sometimes people are there for a different reason than what you're there for. Like, my view right now of an open mic would be, if I had written an original, I want to try it out before putting it all up on stage in front of people that are paying to see it.
Yep.
Take it to an open mic. Mm-hmm. See what it's like. See what the reception's like. Maybe you can work out some phrasing or certain melodic things. But some people are just there to party.
Yeah.
That's why it could be a dangerous thing sometimes. You have to be very careful and regulate yourself of, it's a late night thing. People are playing music, so they assume as, we're just having a good time.
Yep.
And you can fall into the whole realm of partying too much.
Well, yeah, and with any creative endeavor, I think that's always a risk. Because as a creative thing, you have to be social. You have to have some element of social interaction to really sustain creativity. And I think mostly in a grand scheme of things, of course, you can write a great record by yourself. But existing in the community is important as a musician, right? And it's so easy to fall into that trap of like, yeah, man, come hang out here, and then hang out here. And then it's like, it's 2 weeks later, you drunk a beer, 5 beers every single day. And you're like, man, what day is it?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been known to indulge in things here and there.
No,
but
for sure.
It's such an easy thing to get caught up in, especially when you're gigging, because everybody wants to drink with the band after.
And that's the fun. I always tell people, like, I don't really pay for beer.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like, man, it's like, I don't pay for beer ever. Like, because it's just all free. It's always free at gigs.
Yeah. I still remember when I don't think he's going to hear this, but if he does, hey, brother, a guy offered us meth.
Yes.
After a show one time to come do another show. And he offered that as payment to the band. And we didn't take it.
You should have waited.
Yeah.
Should have said no so fast.
Maybe I'm not the smartest businessman, but yeah, I just said, I don't think I need any meth tonight. Yeah. But
I've got offered bags of weed. That's like
really?
a big Ziploc bag of weed.
I feel like that's a good rule of not don't take anything off of anybody you don't know.
Yeah, that's a good rule in life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you're gonna talk to people and like hang out with people following a show, but it's when, hey, you guys want to come to this bar? Want to come to this party? And I mean, here and there I've said yes before, but it just turns into such a headache.
Yeah.
You can easily blow the money from that night.
Oh, totally.
The same night.
Well, and yeah, it's like, talking to a lot of the road guys, I know it's like, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Yeah, that's very true.
And a lot of it's just like, I've been doing this for too long. I don't want to go stand around and drink beers in your backyard. Like,
yeah, and I mean, there's like things happen obviously that we can't control. I remember you told me one time you played a gig with somebody and you guys got a $300 parking ticket.
Yep.
So there's the money from the gig gone already.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, like little things like that. I think that I'm not trying to make it sound like being musicians some like hoity-toity, like we got it so bad. No, but there's a lot of things that we can't control that do kind of, slip in and kind of impact our work.
And you get no sympathy or sympathy.
Yeah.
Nobody cares, right?
No. You show up late to a gig because you got in a car accident. Great. Load up. Do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's such a weird career path in terms of that.
Absolutely. No, totally.
Like, if you think of so many other sectors and things, if something goes wrong, sorry, we're out of this product today. Yeah. Sorry, we can't come do this service today. With music, people will like attack you.
There's this emotional element that's attached to it, right?
Yeah, of course.
It triggers this emotional thing.
I mean, you hear of people like not showing up to gigs and things. I don't know how you could ever do that. My anxiety would not let me do that. Yeah. But like, I mean, I get people have been burned before, but totally. It's just so many times you talk to a booker and they're very like, you're gonna be there, right? Yeah. Yeah, I like getting paid.
Well, it shows you what the bar is like for musicians, right?
Yeah. I still remember the first paid gig I had ever got was about 2 years ago. And they were going to pay me something like $500 cash, which was pretty good for the time. And I got unlimited drinks for the night.
Yeah.
And the guy kept reiterating to me before I showed up even, he was saying, please regulate yourself with the drinks. Yeah. I don't want to have to. And I thought, the fact that he even has to say that to me is crazy.
Yeah.
Because that must mean they've had certain people come through and just get trashed.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Have you encountered, like, because, when we play together, we're doing a lot of like country, Southern rock things, so we're around a specific crew. But sure. When you're around those jazz guys and some of those other guys, do you notice a lot of, like, substance abuse happening?
It's in different ways. Like, I think a lot of jazz guys nowadays just rip darts all the time.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I think they're single-handedly keeping the sales of cigarettes alive. You go to a jazz party, man, everyone's just ripping darts. No, I think it's in a different way because it's not the same as, like, get trashed or whatever and party. I think it's usually, like, more restrained. It's like restrained in the beginning, and then you get into your college years and you're already good. Like, you're a hot shot, so you're just like, yeah, give me all the drinks, and whatever, right? And then you kind of grow up, and as a jazz musician, you mature a little, and you're like, okay, let's take it easy. So it's kind of like a built-in career path. I'd say it's like a more normal progression than anything, right? Because a lot of jazz careers these days, you go through school, and then you play a little bit, you tour, then you get you teach, and it just kind of turns into a professor job almost a lot, right?
Yeah. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Yeah. Artists in substance abuse.
Totally, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously you can cite like the 27 Club and all these huge names of people that have been greatly tormented and impacted by substance abuse.
Yep.
But there's also this like weird like romanticism to it that it's like, oh, you have to have problems to produce art.
Well, and I think
it helps.
I mean, it does help. Yeah, yeah. It does. Like, I think a lot of the greatest art has been produced by tortured souls.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because that's what art kind of is. It's a reflection of the world, right?
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at anything like perspective based, like music, comedy, it's like the most outrageous or the things that the perspective that draws us in are these things that we're so unused to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, when I listen to a certain comedian talk about like getting arrested in Brooklyn in '98 for some kind of drug bust, it's like, wow, what is this? That's out of my realm of
I can't even picture it, right? Like,
I mean, if that's part of your world and it resonates with you, great. But like personally, for somebody like me, I think that's the shock value. Is like, Jesus Christ, this is so out of anything I would ever experience.
Totally, yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's a weird one because I even know guys, especially in the country world. You tell me you're playing country music and there's people not drinking around you, not crew. It's either going to be the crowd, you, or a good mix of both.
Yeah, it's kind of part of it. It just goes with the territory.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not trying to grandstand by saying this. I've stolen this philosophy from some other great artists, but it's like, don't drink and perform.
Yep.
Don't mix anything. People like smoke a joint beforehand, and I mean, maybe that works for you. Personally, no. I'm hired to come to a thing, and I think to put on the best show, I need that connectivity, and I don't think I'm properly connecting unless I'm presently sober in the moment.
Yeah, well, it's a job. I always think about, I always come back to that. It's an actual job. We're not just standing here messing around playing guitars for no reason. Like, we're here because you paid us money. We're going to do a service, right? Service industry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you go down to the hardware store and crank a bottle of whiskey before you go work. But we're not doing that too often. But no, it is a weird one. Like, even on like a local level, you notice a lot of people coming up. I would say more than not, for sure, are there for the party.
Oh, totally, yeah.
They're there for the party, which is nice for that sense of like community. But if you're drinking more than you're performing, probably on the wrong path.
Reevaluate that. Yeah.
The wrong path. Well, Caleb, we're kind of getting towards the end of this Hoss chat here. Is there anything, like date-wise, or anything you want to plug before we kind of wrap her up?
Not real. I guess my show on Midtown Radio, so that's midtownradio.ca, airs every Monday night at 7 p.m. It's called Inside the Musical Mind with Caleb Khuu. I use some of my psychology background and musical background to dive into the mentality of musicians and how they approach music and all such things like that. But other than that, man, just check out my Instagram, check out my website, and I'm playing a lot of gigs with a lot of people.
Yeah, he's a busy boy. If you want to book him, you gotta book out in advance. He's like a wedding planner. All right, guys. Yeah, this is another Hoss chat. I'm Nick Board. We had Caleb Khuu on today, and tune in next week for another Hoss chat. Take care, guys.
Well, I felt what you